cup of sugar in there, brown sugar. One cup of corn syrup. Another cup of brown sugar. A can of sweet condensed milk. And I have 2 sticks of butter. This is going to be a little longer video because I wanted to take you guys through all my steps of how I make my caramel apples. I have my candy thermometer on the side of my pot. I am using an aluminum pot. I got this pot from Sam's and I love it making my candy apples. It is an awesome pot for candy apples. Today I am using Fuji apples. I normally use Granny Smith apples, but for some reason I can't find them. I went to Sam's and I just couldn't find them. This is the second week in a row I couldn't find them in Sam's. So I know a lot of people make their caramel apples with the caramel melts, but I love to make mine from scratch. Hey Michelle. Hey Cakes by Angie. Angel, I'm sorry. Thank you guys for joining me. So yes, we are making caramel apples. And I'm going to put a little twist on my apples. I'm going to make some caramel ones, and once I dip the caramel ones, I'm going to change my caramel to red. Yes, I use brown sugar, 2 cups of brown sugar, a can of sweet condensed milk, 2 sticks of butter, and 1 cup of corn syrup, light corn syrup. So I'm taking you through the full process. So this video is going to be a little longer, and I'm going to dip my apples, and I am going to throw some little decorations on it. I have some coconut, I have some mini M&ms, I have some peanuts, and I'm going to melt some chocolate in this pot here. So if you've ever made caramel, you know you have to stir. Or if you don't, it will burn on the bottom. I have my candy thermometer here, but it's not touching the bottom of my pot because I wanted to have the true temperature of my caramel and not the pot. So I thank you guys for joining me and hanging out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer whatever I can answer. I've been using this recipe since about 2005. You can color your caramel. I've made in the past some primary colors. Only thing yellow does not come out because your caramel is a yellow base, meaning that it's a brown base, so yellow doesn't show up well. Well, Michelle, you are in luck. I will have some for you tomorrow. You are welcome to them. I ask you guys to share. Let your friends know that I am here making caramel apples. You know, it's fall, and caramel apples is a fall treat. So if you haven't made any caramel apples and you're looking for a way to a good recipe, well, I am sharing mine today. I have not shared my recipe at all. So you are in luck. Yes. So I am excited. I got some things. I thank God I had a great time in Vegas. Everyone who liked my video, my peach Ciroc video that I posted last week when I was absent. I was in Vegas with my sister's trip. I had an awesome time. We got back on early Monday morning because our flights were delayed. But I'm glad we made it back home. So we are making caramel apples from scratch. So if you ever had the desire to make some caramel apples from scratch and not use the caramel melts, here I am. I'm doing it tonight. And I'll take you through the whole process. Earlier, I washed my apples. I dipped them in some hot water. And then I put them in some cool water so the cooking process on the outside of the apple can stop. And then I wipe them down with a paper towel. And I lay them out so they can dry. And then once you clean your apples, you have a lot of sap coming out of them. So you got to take a damp paper towel and wipe off that sap. Because you don't want to dip your apples and you have them not clean, it has all that wax on them, or have all the sap on them. Your caramel will not stick. Even if you're making candy apples, your candy apples will not stick. The butter kind of makes everything come together. And yes, by keeping your keep stirring your caramel, it keeps it smooth and it won't burn. Because you don't want any burnt caramel. That's not a good taste. And you don't want to cook your caramel like you're making your candy apples up to 300 degrees. Then you have candy caramel. And you won't be able to bite into that caramel apple. So we're going to cook this caramel until it reaches 248 degrees. And then once we do get it to that temperature, we're going to let it sit for a moment before we dip our apples, because if your caramel is too hot, it will not stick to your apples. For this caramel, it's going to take about a good 25 to 30 minutes to reach temperature. And while I'm working on this caramel, I'm going to put in my chocolates because I want to drizzle my caramels with some chocolate. I'm not going to put much. I'm going to turn it down just a little. And I have some Paramount crystals here for my chocolate. And I'm just going to put just a little bit in there. And that helps the chocolate to melt smoothly. So you see my caramel is starting to bubble. My apple, I'm using a Fuji apple, not the Granny Smith apple. So, but that is a good apple to stand up to heat. And once we decorate the apples and everything and they cool off, I will actually cut an apple for you so you can see the inside. You see the caramel is getting nice and bubbly. And you see this chocolate don't take long to melt. So I'm going to actually pull this off in just a moment. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off and turn that eye down. I'm going to leave the eye on just in case I need to put it back on the heat, which I don't think I'm going to have to right now. And I'm just continue to stir this caramel. My caramel right now is at 120 degrees. So we're getting to 248. I love this time of year. Fall is an awesome time of year for me. The weather is not too hot, it's not too cold. You have all your pumpkins out, which, you know what? Today on the news, I heard it's a pumpkin shortage. I'm going to cook this up to 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, so there's a pumpkin shortage for all you Halloween folks that make your jack-o'-lanterns and everything. I was just surprised to hear that. And I'm using a silicone spatula. Heat resistant spatula. And like I said, I got my pot, my aluminum pot from Sam's, which I love it when I make my candy apples and my caramel apples. And my candy thermometer, I got it from Hobby Lobby. And I have some Ghirardelli chocolate melted here that I'm gonna drizzle on top of my apples once I start decorating them. Yes, Michelle, there's a pumpkin shortage. I don't know, I'm starting to think it's an apple shortage because I can't find any green Granny Smith apples either. So, which I love using Granny Smith because it has that tartness, and the tartness goes well with the sweetness of the caramel or candy apples when you make them. I have my stove on medium heat because I don't want my caramel to burn. I don't want it to cook too fast. And once we finish with the cooking the caramel on the stove, we're going to turn the cameras over to the table and you'll watch me dip the apples, and then I'll change the color of my caramel to red. So while I'm waiting for that caramel to cool, I have some coconut, I have some nuts, and I have some M&ms. And I have my apples that I've already put the sticks in. And I have a couple of more apples over here that I'm gonna put some sticks in too. The longer they sit, the more sap comes out. So I'm gonna grab a paper towel and wipe them down before I dip them, because you don't want to dip them when you have sap on your apples. Here's one that I haven't put the stick in, but I'm gonna go ahead and put a stick in it now. But I wanted to wipe it down. I'm gonna just push it down, hold the apple, push it, make sure it doesn't come out the bottom. Same thing here. Wipe down this apple. Like I say, I boiled them and then I put them in cold water. And I'm gonna stick them in there, and it's secure. You see this one here? I don't know if you guys can see the sap and the little juices around there. You don't want to dip your apple when it has that on it, because your caramel will not stick. I normally use Granny Smith apples, but I couldn't find any. But this is a Fuji apple. You want to use an apple that can withstand the heat of your candy and your caramel. So these are Fuji apples. So I cooked my caramel up to 248 degrees Fahrenheit, and now it's dropping down to about 200 because I didn't want to dip my apples when it was the caramel was that hot. So I have some peanuts here. I have some coconut here. And I have some M&ms. So we're gonna dip our apples. I'm gonna take this out. We're gonna dip them. And I like to cover them. I like to cover them to the top. And then I sit it here. I let it drain just a little. And I'll wipe it on the side here because your caramel is going to continue to drip. So this one is going to have coconut. And you have to dip them kind of fast because your caramel will dry fairly quick. So here's another apple. And I like to drain it. Let it drip. Get some of the excess caramel off. You can come over now if you like them up. I'll be up for a while. And I'm going to dip it in the nuts. Dip it again. Thank you guys for joining me. We're doing caramel apples. I'm gonna wipe the bottom. Turn it upside down a little. And we're gonna do some M&ms. And like I said, you have to dip them while it's hot because you try to dip them when it's not hot, they won't stick. And this is going to be my last caramel apple I dip. I'm going to change the color to red and have some red apples. You can double this recipe when you're making your caramel apples if you want to dip more apples. So I have some red here. I'm going to ask you to take this out now. We're going to put a couple of drops and we're going to see what it looks like and see if we need more. A couple of more drops. And this is Chef Master's food coloring. So you see I changed it to a red color now. So if you have customers that want caramel and they want them to be red, you can change them to red. And we're going to dip them. Yes, I'll be at the Renaissance Festival next month in Somerville. So I'm going to dip the sides. And we're going to put some nuts on them. And if you like have customers that like sea salt, you can actually put some sea salt on your caramel. Some more coconut on this one. Take this one and wipe it off. Well, thank you. I appreciate you joining me. Yeah, I go live every Wednesday about 9 o'clock. And I'm always baking, making popcorn or something I'm doing. I'm thinking about doing some live juicing. I've been juicing a lot lately. I juice my my vegetables and my fruits. I'll put M&ms on this one. So I have about 3 more apples I'm gonna dip. And then I'll go back to one of the ones I dipped a little earlier. See, my caramel is getting a little cool now. You can put it back on the stove for it to warm up a little more. And even though you see my bottom like this, the caramel is going to continue to drizzle down, and it'll make almost like a little foot. Sometimes I hate the little feet that it makes sometimes. But, or you can just dip a little back in there and then sit it down. So, like I said, you guys, I'm going to put it back on this eye for a second and see if I can get it to warm up some. And while I'm doing that, that chocolate that I melted, I can drizzle caramel apples. So I have a piping bag here, just a plain Wilton's. And this is Ghirardelli's chocolate, dark chocolate, because you want something to offset all that sweetness. You don't want to use a milk chocolate. I'm going to sit that there for a moment. So, let's see. I think my chocolate is a little too warm to drizzle, but we're going to go ahead and drizzle it anyway. I'm going to cut the tip on this. Where's my, I have another pan here. Okay. I just drizzle a little on that pan before I drizzle. And I'm just gonna take it up and down. Like I said, it's a little too warm, but that's fine. It'll dry. So you can decorate your candy apples however you want to decorate them. When they dry, you can put them in a box or a bag. Let me cut one of these apples for you, just to show you what the inside looks like. So we're gonna take this one. See, it's dry already. It's dry. So we're gonna just cut this and show you the inside. You got a nice layer of caramel on the outside. And see, it's not completely dry, but once they set, you got a nice layer of caramel on the outside. Your apple look really nice. I'm not a big caramel fan of apples, but here you go. They are so good. I thank you guys for joining me tonight. I am Shonda with Shonda's Edible Delights. And we made caramel apples, red caramel apples, and the regular caramel apples. I will put my recipe on my bio. And you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining me. I'm on live every Wednesday about 9 o'clock. And you can follow me on all my social media, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And I thank you guys once again for joining me. Have a great night.